Good evening, Jack. Nice to see you, as always. Hope everyone's doing well today. It's Thursday, and it's time to sit. I remember I had a meditation one time for a group of kids. In Sri Lanka, it's basically you have during full moon, Poya Day, they have big festivals, or like festivals, but a holiday. So people come to the center and then they do some meditation, or they study some scriptures and chant and stuff. And I was in charge of the meditation for a group of kids, and they couldn't have all spoken English. I think I spoke in English, and then I had someone else who translated for me to Sri Lankan, and we did the meditation. And at the end, most of them were sleeping. So they were lying down meditating. They were all sleeping. And then afterwards, they were talking to the parents. Said, "Okay, how was the meditation? Was it nice?" "Yeah, it's been amazing. It was a sleeping meditation," someone said, because we were sleeping the whole time. So maybe we should do that. Like a sleeping meditation sounds like a great idea. Hey, Jethro. Hey, Andres. Pretty good. Pretty good. What about you? I've been a bit material. I got a new telephone because my old one... Hey, Catherine. My old one has been breaking down the whole time. It just stops showing... the battery just stops working after half a day, so I can't even keep it with me for a full day. I had to buy a new one. And hopefully the camera is going to be better on this one. So I'll be doing a bit more... like the last videos I've done where I just like pick up the camera and record. And also I got a better microphone. So I'm a bit excited about that. That's going to be fun. I really do like that style of filming. Just, okay, now I feel like talking about a subject, just like now. You ask questions sometimes and there's something that comes up, and then I just talk about it. So it's the same throughout the day. Just something happens, and then it's nice to talk about it. So I'd like to do that as well. Also thinking about having, as I've said before, a community of some kind, and maybe having extra videos there where I just do more random chats that are not so polished, but just thoughts about what's happening. Let's see. I think I said hello to Catherine. Nice to have you here. Jack is saying... Oh, let's move this. Tathagata always says, is written, that he said that the meditation is supposed to free one from attachment. How does it work from you? When you're sleeping, there's not much attachment. Yeah, I would say so. It depends on how you look at it, though, because it doesn't have to. I don't really think of it as terms of attachments, because that's an idea. And the problem is, you say, I have no attachments, and I could say, I have no attachments. I'm okay with it being either or. That's an attachment. You're attached to the idea that you don't care which way it goes. So I don't talk about it like that. I talk about distortion. And yes, when I meditate, I am usually able to let go of most of my distortion. So I'm in a state of non-centricness and feel very low sense of self, which means there's less of me there, and that means I'm happier and I'm enjoying my surroundings, and everything around me is clearer, more vibrant, and just more engaging, so to speak. So I don't really like the way that they talk about it in those scriptures. I'm not saying there's anything wrong. I'm just saying that there's so much room for interpretation. Someone actually wrote as a comment to one of my videos when I say, I don't say don't be kind. I say don't harm other people, don't do ill towards others, because I said I don't want to say be kind, and they asked why not? Why not be kind? And well, I said there's nothing wrong with being kind, absolutely. I mean, by all means be as kind as you can, but when I say be kind, there's so much interpretation in that, because then what does kindness mean? Am I kind to you if I don't help you so you can learn by yourself? Or should I always help you so that you never get to learn? Like, what does kindness mean? It's quite difficult, and you get into all these discussions about that. So by all means, I mean, be kind, absolutely. But when you start interpreting, then that becomes difficult, which is why I say just don't harm others. Don't come up with a plan in your mind how you're going to get revenge and hurt someone. That's obviously not kind, but it's also then you're getting into hurting others. So I think that wording that is often used can be really overinterpreted to mean more than it necessarily needs to mean. Andreas, who is experienced in meditation? How is this decided? What do you mean, Andreas? Could you expand on that question a bit? Jack, family, friends, possessions, health, mind, life, attachments. Not necessarily. I mean, it's like I said, I find it much easier to talk about distortion. In other words, you're pushing and pulling. You can call it whatever you like, because you can be attached to the idea of not having attachments. I mean, it just confuses people when they use the. I know what the term means, but I'm just saying that it confuses people, and they then start to say, okay, I'm not attached because I have no money. I have no money. I remember there was just a few days ago, I listened to a beautiful video. There was a channel, they did videos on people who lived special lives, lived spiritual lives, kind of. And there was a man who had been I think a jeweler. He had sold really expensive watches and jewels and stuff like that. And he was talking about how he had no money. He very often said, like, I don't live with any of that materialistic things. I'm beyond that, and I am forever gonna be feeling the pain from all the pain I went to the mines for digging out the jewels that I sold, and he was really not attached to that. But there's so much distortion in the way that he was living his life, like lots of distortion. He just created this new idea that had less distortion than his old life, possibly. I mean, I don't know that actually, but he says so at least. So that's why I don't use terms like attachment or being kind. Again, I absolutely be kind as you can. That's a great idea. But if you believe you're going to get rewarded by being kind, then it's kind of, missing the point. Or if you spend so much time, I sometimes get people who are worried because I'm not supposed to hurt other beings. So, but what about when I walk, because I step on bacteria, or when I get in my car, I kill thousands of flies, and or if I pour out boiling water in the sink, then I kill germs and stuff living in the sink. So I should pour in. Like, you can take this really far, and then you have a lot of suffering, a lot of distortion in you. So, I mean, that's up to you what you believe you need to do, but I just try to not use terms like that because people get too carried away with it and they kind of miss the point. Just be like a normal person, guys. Like, don't be idiots. It's not that difficult. If you care for anything else than getting to the other side is not with what Buddha intended with the Dhammas. If you care for anything else than getting to the other side. Yeah, I'm assuming you mean liberation with the other side. Let's see, Andreas. What is the difference between a person who is a beginner and an experienced person in meditation? It's just how much you sit. I mean, there's... we can talk a little bit about it, I guess. There's different ways of viewing these, what experience in meditation means. There are some people who say, well, it means that you have lots of experience with different traditions. For me, that means you're a scholar. Or even if you've tried many different traditions, it means that you have had a lot of experience in different traditions. So you have a wide knowledge of different traditions. But for me, experience in meditation means that you have sat a lot, meaning you have looked at what comes up, and you have gone through the euphoria that can come from meditation. You have gone through the dark night of the soul when everything goes to crap, and you have gone through the peacefulness that can come, the detachment, the weird states where nothing makes sense, and the hearing sounds, seeing things that aren't there, and feeling like you communicate. Like, you've been through all of that and not gotten too attached to it, not getting too caught up in the idea that that's special or there's anything, and actually not just once or twice, like actually being through these things a few times until you realize, okay, they're not really that important. But then, of course, it's just on a scale. I mean, what are you going to compare it to? For someone who's not living in a meditation center, then meditating 1 hour per day for a year, that would be a lot. Like, if you're a lay person who meditate 1 hour per day every day for a year, I would say that's well done. I mean, that's not a lot of people who are able to do that. They might be able to do it for a month, but not many people are actually able to be consistent for a year. But if you compare that to when I lived at centers and everyone there meditated, I mean, then it would be anywhere from 8 to 15 or 16 hours per day. Now try doing that for a year. I mean, it's just so completely different. So experienced it's like with anything else. What means when you're experiencing something? There's just many different levels, but basically for me, yeah, it means that you've seen that it's gonna be okay. You're not gonna die from the things that you experience. They're impermanent. If you're not gonna ruin your mind, you're gonna get back. It might be a long period when things are shit, but you'll come out of that because you've gone through a few of those things. So when someone comes to you and has a problem and they're panicking because they can't feel their emotions, they don't feel any connection, they feel like their mind isn't working, they're not themselves, they hear things, they see things, when they come to you like that, and you can say, it's going to be okay, like, this will be fine, tell me what's happening. Not just because, like, oh, I'm just going to say that, but they've gone through it themselves. That would be experience for me. And it gives a different kind of stability when you talk to someone who's actually done that, rather than someone who's read it in a book, like, okay, yeah, I see here it's going to be okay, so yeah, I guess you're okay. But then they're also reacting. I've seen many meditation teachers do that, like in some centers when they have group coaching, or what you call it, group sessions, and they're just not that experienced. So yeah, and everything's relative. I don't want to say that. That's why I say a lay person who meditates 1 hour per day for a year, that would be amazing, because you can't compare that to someone who lives in a meditation center and who's able to meditate 8 to 15 hours. There's just like it's a different thing. Not to belittle the other. Andreas, experienced meditation have better cushions. Absolutely, they have better cushions. I actually have a cushion that I sit on from Plum Village that I got from the abbot there. Very nice. It's very fancy. Gold embroidery around it. There's like diamond studded stuff like on the sides. And then I have 5G telephone poles everywhere. It's like really fancy. So you can communicate, with the higher powers. Let's see, Jack. The less your back hurts, the better you've got in your practice, I think. Well, my back hurts. Sometimes the back just hurts. That's also one of the things when you sit, there'll be so much weird pains. I basically had one of the things that I think I did really well when I was ordained and meditated a lot was that I kind of put all my earthly things to this. No, I shouldn't say earthly things. My worries and fears to the side. So I would sit and I would have insane pain in my back, or I would have a jaw or a tooth that would ache so much. I'm like, oh, something's wrong with my tooth. Or I had my left testicle would hurt like crazy. It's like, what the? I think it was because I was sitting so much and he was lying and it was warm and it just got, I don't know, hurt or something. I went through a lot of physical pain those years, and I had a lot of weird stuff that came up, and I just felt completely depressed. But instead of trying to go into that, analyze it, going into my shadow work, trying to figure out things, I just sat down and I let it all come, and I see, okay, what does this feel like? And then when I looked at it long enough, usually it would just, well, obviously disappear because it's not here now. So the ability to be okay with feeling like shit is very powerful when you're doing these kind of things, but it's also dangerous if you are not at the point where you can handle that and you throw yourself into it and you can get overwhelmed. So you kind of need to be at a point where that's something you can actually do in a safe way. But yes, it is nice that your back starts hurting less. And there's certain advantages also. Some of the things that happen is that, for instance, you don't have much of a problem having your back straight because it feels like you have a thing just pulling you up, like in your spine. You just automatically, when you close your eyes, the spine just wants to straighten itself, and it gets easier sitting straight. I also have, as soon as I close my eyes, there's like it goes like this and it pulls me down. And I can feel my face just goes like this. My eyes, I don't have to close my eyes. They just get very heavy. And I don't mean that as in, I talk myself into getting heavy eyelids. They just like, this whole part of the face just loses any kind of muscle action, so to speak. So I get very relaxed in my face, and most of my body just kind of hangs like that. And that, I guess, is experience, because I've done it so many times that the body is, okay, now it just gets pulled into some kind of state. So that would also be experience, I guess. It's difficult. That's a good question, actually, Andreas. I never thought about that like that, because I just don't think about it like that. Andreas, you write that this group meditation is for beginners and seasonal meditators. That's why I asked. Oh, okay. Well, seasonal, that just means that people are seasoned. Seasoned, that's when you do spices, right? I don't know which one is which. I just meant that you can come here and have lots of meditation experience, meaning you sat a lot, and it can still be useful because it depends on what you ask. You can ask any kind of questions, and it's a meditation that works for anyone, a beginner or someone who's sat for many, many years. So basically, if what it really comes down to is just experience. Oh yeah, we talked about experienced, so it makes sense that it would be that you have experience. Okay, that's it. That's a nice discussion. I like that, Andreas. Thank you for bringing that up. So, is everyone ready to sit a little bit? For those of you who are new, what we do is normally we chat like this for 10, 15, 20 minutes. And after that, we do the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method, which is a method for coming into our senses, to be able to observe our senses without this distortion, this value, judgment, emotional reaction to things around you, but you're just seeing something, not being neutral and not being numb, but seeing things for what they really are. There's a saying in Buddhism, I don't quote a lot of Buddhism, like I've even considered taking away ex-Buddhist, former Buddhist monk, because it doesn't feel like that's really the main thing about me when you talk to me about this stuff. It's more my experience than the fact that I was a Buddhist monk before. So we try to, what I was going to say is that there's a saying, in the seen is only the seen, in the heard is only the heard. Meaning there is no I, no sense of interpretation, no value judgment, but not as in thoughts, but an actual feeling. You can go without concepts, but still have a distortion towards things. So we're trying to go beyond concepts. So just seeing things, just seeing texture, just seeing shapes. And when you look at something, it's just beautiful. I remember the first few times when I started experiencing this, when it was really clear and I was in these non-centric states, was when I was in Plum Village. I had this all the time, and I had a beautiful kuti, like a house that I sat on in the top floor, and it was a forest, and I had a huge window looking out into a oak forest. I think it was oak. Was it maple? I think it was oak. Beautiful forest and birds and mice and spiders, for that matter. I had both running over me while I meditated. And I would look out, and then I would sit there and I'd get into these really non-centric states, and I would just look, and it would be like, whoa, like this. And I could just sit for half an hour going like, this is amazing, like I was on drugs. And in the beginning it feels almost, when you really get to that state where you can see without having a value judgment, without distorting, without having emotional connection, then you just see things as they are. And reality is incredible. Reality is beautiful. Reality is amazing. But we have this thing here that keeps distorting it, so we can't see it. It really is like there's that saying, heaven on earth. Heaven is here. It's really around us. It's not what you have. It's how you just use your senses and just experience. But you need to get rid of that thing that's in the way. So when we do the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, we try to just see, just hear, just taste, just smell, to just use our senses. And after that, we sit for 20 minutes. Today is Thursday. It is, right? Yeah, it's Thursday today. So we sit for 20 minutes, and then afterwards, if anyone has any questions, we have questions and after. Questions and answers after. Or more what I like to think of a discussion, like we had now. People say stuff and we discuss it. So, say it together with me. We say 5 things out loud that we can see, and it's really about stopping and being aware of actually looking what you see, and not just like going through them, and try to say them out loud. If you can't, then obviously don't disturb if someone's sleeping next to you. So I'll say them together with you. I see a plastic thing imaging. I see a pen. And also try to feel relaxed when you're saying these things. See if there's any tension, and just let go of that and just observe what you're seeing. I can see an image of myself. I see a light through a thin metal mesh. and I see a small square window. That was 5 things that I could see. Now I have 4 things that I can feel. So I can feel my hand moving over my knee. And I can also feel fabric on my hand. And try to keep a wide awareness. If you're observing, feeling the knee, try to feel both of them like a space, kind of, that's happening, that all of that is part of your experience. I can feel my wooden sofa. And we're trying to enjoy our senses. We're trying to appreciate what we feel and see that there's happiness in using your senses. I feel this, is it called stubble of my beard? I need to shave. Those 4 things that I could feel. Now we have 3 things that we can hear, and now we need to focus a little bit more because it's more difficult to be aware of these things. So also try to, if you hear a sound, try to listen if there's a sound within the sound, or if there's like a more nuanced sound that you can notice. I hear a compressor running somewhere. I hear tires on the road. And I hear what we in Sweden call dunka dunka music from a car. There's 3 things that I could hear. And we have 2 things that we can smell. I smell vanilla. And I can smell, I think that's sweat. Finally, we take 1 thing that we can taste. Taste a citrusy flavor. Thank you. It was very nice. If you want to just keep on sitting a bit more, or have any questions or thoughts, feel free to ask them, or just drink a cup of tea. Oops. Same to you, Jack. Always nice to have you here. Thank you, Mindful Mama. Nice to have you here as well. It's nice now that we've had most of the people who come here as regulars have asked the questions they want to ask. There's not many new things. Oh, look, Jethro has something nice. Let's see what Jethro says. I have been meditating on and off for quite a few years, but I still catch myself holding tension in my face, especially around my mouth. Is there anything I should do? The face is quite common. It's quite common to clench your jaws. There's also something that happens with the tongue for me. The tongue just gets sucked up into the the top of my mouth. And there seems to be very little I can do with that. But what you can do is continuously throughout the meditation, you check in and see, are you tensing up? And then you try to let go of that. There's some people who say you should just sit completely still, don't move anything. But relaxation and effortlessness is a big part of what we're aiming for. So if you're sitting and you feel like you have tension around your face, your mouth, could you describe it a little bit more, what kind of tension it is? Because there's things that go down here that there can be a lot of tension, a lot of pressure. There's also, what do you call those? Nadis, or energy points, chakras, if you want, whatever you want to call them. There's points where you can get a lot of pain when you meditate. Like I have a few points here, and if, like I said, when you sit a lot, you can feel like you have like problems with your teeth, or like a jaw, or there's something just grinding inside there. And that can just be something that's stuck. When you sit over and over more, that tends to just loosen up. So one of the things you actually could do, Jethro, pursing your lips slightly, yeah. Try doing like this. Just do everything you can to just loosen up. But one thing you can do, if it's something that's stuck, is to go to an intensive retreat, like where you sit 10 days. I highly recommend the Goenka retreats. I call them the McDonald's of the meditation, because they're everywhere, and they're built on the machine metaphor, same as McDonald's. So you can go anywhere and have a similar experience, no matter where in the world you are. And if you have something that's blocked, there's a high likelihood that would get cleared out from going into a more intensive retreat. But it's semi-intensive. It's like 10 hours per day for 10 days. So it's pretty intensive. But it's only for 10 days. Let's see. JVB, don't to turn on top comments. Live chat. Yes, I have that on, JVB. I saw that. Good, thank you for reminding me. Let's see. JVB is asking. I hope that answered it, Jethro, by the way. I just check in the whole time, and quite often I see like also I have tension in my shoulders. So then I just do like this, and that's fine. Just let go of all the tension, and then you start again. And then sometimes it's just impossible because there's like tension coming, and then, well, you can try changing your posture is also something you can do. You can sit in the diamond position, the one where you fold your legs underneath. That's a really good position to change up with. So I'm going to take JVB here. He's asking, how is it possible biologically, physically, and or spiritually that the answers we seek are inside of us already? How did those answers initially get inside of us? Oh yeah, I don't think about that. I'm not even sure that's true. because I'm not looking for answers. I'm looking for the thing that makes it so the answers aren't really important. If you've watched my video why I left to become a Buddhist monk for 6 years, I talk about how when I left I had all these questions, just like you have, like questions: why are we here? What am I supposed to do with my life? Who am I? What's my destiny? What should I create? I wanted to find why I was here, and I wanted to figure out what happened before life and what happened after life. Those questions were very important to me, and I wanted to know what to do with my life. But then after I meditated and I started going through all these things, those questions just disappeared. It's not that I found the answers, I just don't have the questions anymore. It's kind of like when you're a child and you want to figure out how to get to the drawer where all the candy is. Kind of like, oh, you really want to get to that drawer, and it's like your life purpose is to find that. When my daughter said, Papa, when I get big, I'm gonna eat candy every day, because that's what she kind of imagines it to be. But then when you grow up, it's like, yeah, the candy drawer is there, it's fine, I don't need to eat it every day. It's kind of the whole, that need to get there is just gone. And the reason is that the sense of self, the sense that there's a distortion, what you're feeling when you say you seek the answer is a distortion. It's uncomfortableness. You feel uncomfortable and you feel, oh, if I will find the answer to this question, then I will feel comfortable. I'm saying just skip all of that crap and just feel comfortable. You don't need to find the answer. Not saying don't screw your life over and anything like that. Just look at the distortion and focus on feeling good now, instead of thinking that you're going to feel good at a later time, because that later time is also going to be now. It's just another now. I hope that makes sense. Love these questions, JVB. Jack is saying, Padmasambhava are familiar with his teachings, or were you only taught in Mahayana? No, I was only taught in Theravada. Padmasambhava. I recognize it, but I can't figure out what it is. Jethro, oh thanks, I will look into retreats. Yeah, everyone here, if you really want to do something interesting, kind of like, imagine you go to Disney World. There's like a Disney World for meditation, and that's one of these retreats. And as I've said many times before, I highly recommend the Goenka retreats. They are great retreats. I disagree quite strongly with their teachings and the method, but they are still amazing, and they're a really good thing to start out with. It might suit you really well, so it might be perfect for you. And it's basically like going on a roller coaster. You get there on the first day and everyone's excited, and a lot of people don't know what's going to happen. Many people have been there before. I think I did at least 25 10-day retreats, and just a few of the longer ones. And you get there and everyone like is a bit like, oh, what's going to happen? It's exciting, and they're talking and they're like acting tough, like, yeah, it's going to be cool and fun. And then you give away all your belongings, so you don't have any telephones, any money on you. And then you go and sit, and you sit for 10 days. So first there's 3 days of anapanasati, so you just focus on the breath. And then they start the vipassana on day 4 or 3, I think. And then in the beginning, the first 3 days are the worst. I think, if I would guess, I would say that the majority of people who left would do it at day 2 or 3. First day, like, okay, I can pull through. The second day, oh my god, this is tough. And then third day, it's like bone crushing. And then you do the vipassana and you start doing something else. It just tends to flow through. So if you make it past the first 3 days, then it's completely different. And then you sit, and then it's just fun. You experience so much stuff. Like, it's just very different. And it goes back to what I think Andreas asked, what does it mean to be an experienced meditator? And you just don't understand the difference between sitting 10 hours per day for 10 days compared to sitting 1 hour per day for a year. I would say that it's more beneficial to sit 1 hour per day for a year than 10 hours per day for 10 days. But what you would really want to do is do a retreat like that every now and then, because it really gets the juices flowing. It gets you into something that you just cannot access at home in the same way. So yeah, it's a really good idea if you're able to, and they're donation based. So at least they used to be. I'm assuming they still are. So you donate whatever. I think when I used to go, it was like people donated 150 to 250 or 300 euros for 10 days. crazy cheap. If you have more, then absolutely donate more. Let's see. For JVB, okay, thank you, Jack. He answers a lot of the questions we might have had. Jack Crasher, Guru Rinpoche in some readings. Nice. Jack is really good with like those kind of stuff, so ask him. He's better than me at answering that. See, Jethro is saying Padmasambhava is also known as Guru Rinpoche. Okay, the founder of Tibetan Buddhism. Okay, nice. Nadia. Hey Nadia, nice to have you here again. I'm interested in your anxiety journey. How are you now? My low-level anxiety is increasing, and I'm worried I might have panic attacks again. Oh, that's a good question. It's something I like talking about, but it's late. But I'll still talk about it because it's a topic that I find, I care about, and it's difficult. So, I got burnt out 5 years ago. 6 years ago. Oh my goodness, yeah, it's almost 6 years ago now. And what had happened was that we changed our bed, and I stopped sleeping. I have 3 hernia discs in my neck that make it very difficult for me to sleep sometimes. And so I stopped sleeping. I slept 3 to 5 hours per night for 9 months. We got it around Christmas, and in November I just crashed, and I had gone through all those months and barely sleeping. I remember I was sitting like this. I could not stay awake. Meetings, I could not focus my mind. Everything was falling apart. And it just got worse and worse. And on top of that, we had a lot of personal stuff that happened. My father passed away. We moved to a new house. And I went from being a monastic to living together with a woman who, even though she was amazing, it's just like we're taking 2 people trying to combine them. And me living as a monk was like, I was used to a very different lifestyle. So all of those things combined with lack of sleep just crashed. And I had a panic attack. I still remember when I woke up and it was like, oh my goodness, I'm gonna die. It was like my heart was pounding out of my chest, and I was palpating, and I literally felt like I was gonna die. Now, I've felt that feeling so many times in meditations. It was not really as bad as it probably could have been. It just took, I think, 15-20 minutes for me to calm it down. But we called the ambulance, and they came and checked, and I remember there was an older man and a younger man, the ambulance crew, and the younger one was like, the older one's like, it's just a panic attack, let's go, like, this is just, we just wasted our time. The younger was like, are you okay? Like, yeah, I understand, this is what it is, and you should go see the doctor. So I went to see the doctor, and then I got on sick leave, and I said, I'll be back in 2 weeks. I don't want to be away for more than 2 weeks, because I worked with kids who had problematic absence from school and were really ill, like had lots of issues, and they needed stability for me to come back. And since I was really bad, then I couldn't do that, but I still wanted to do it. So eventually I just was on sick leave for a long time. And it went down and then went up, and I had lots of anxiety. I would wake up at night, I would feel someone's breaking into our house, the house is going to fall down, and like lots of general anxiety. And it just escalated, and my body just fell apart. I could not handle input of the senses. So I remember I was at a party with some friends, like a dinner with some friends, and there was music playing in the background, and I could not focus on listening to people talking. It was the music and the person talking to me. I couldn't process those 2 things. I could not drive while it was raining. I could not drive when it was dark and there was lights. I remember one time I was driving and it started snowing, and I just had to stop the car. So my senses were overwhelmed. Now that got really bad, and I needed to just sleep, and that was the problem. I couldn't sleep. I had my neck pain, but also on top of that, now since I was burned out, I had cortisol in my body, so my body was constantly in a stress reaction, which caused the anxiety. And it just took a lot of time for me to see my limits. I think I've always been a person who loved doing things. I love talking to people. I love just throwing everything up and just going somewhere and doing something. Always interacting, having 10 projects at the same time, and all of a sudden I couldn't do that. I couldn't even do one thing. It was difficult for me to just start doing something, and then all the things started piling up, and it started getting really difficult. But I think, then I got back to work, but I was not really well, and I got burnt out a second time because they tried to put me from working one-on-one and in smaller groups to putting me in a classroom, and I was like, there's just no way that's going to work. And just the thought of that just made me crash again. Fortunately, after that, I really said, okay, this is like enough. I need to really look into that. And I was lucky that I had a partner who could support me. We had a house that was not too expensive. We had one child, and she was so small that my fiancé could take care of her, and I could actually just relax. But there would be days when I would wake up. First thing I do is I woke up, I just went to sleep. I would sleep on the sofa or somewhere else where I could just get some kind of rest. So that was tough, but then gradually I came back, and a big part of it is because I'm assuming you want to know how I got better. And the first part is time. It just takes time. Second part is realizing that I'm broken, that I'm not the same person as I was before, and my mind cannot handle the kind of stimuli that I could before. So I am very much aware of when my nervous system is overloaded, because there is a physical damage to my nervous system. It doesn't function the way it did before. I put too much stress on it from lack of sleep and from the anxiety that I had to go through that. So I can't handle the kind of things a normal person can. And I'm okay with that. That's a big part of like the practice here also. We get okay with the distortion we have towards things. You're now feeling bad about feeling bad, which makes you feel bad, so you feel bad. It's just like kind of, yeah, you just add to it, kind of cake on cake, we call it in Sweden. So understanding your limitations, building up, and also finding that it's okay. What I find a lot of people do is that when they get burnt out or depressed, they kind of minimize their world and they make it very small. They for a while they say up lots of friends, they stop drinking, they stop eating meat. Usually they stop being in a relationship if they're like young and like having that stuff. I was obviously with my partner. I had no intention of doing that. But for a lot of people, they live in celibacy for a while because they're just, I can't take the dating and everything, it's too much. So they kind of scale down their life until it becomes a small part, and then they can handle. And when they can handle that part, they start adding things gradually until you can get more and you can actually have a functioning life again. So for me, I was there was a lot of positive circumstances that made me get through it. Part of it was that I had an amazing partner who could support me. And we had our economy in such a place that even though it was very tough, we could still make it. And we were able to continue living where we were. And I also live in Sweden, which is amazing. We have social welfare here that is incredible. So while I was on sick leave, we get paid by the government to kind of get well again, and we get free doctors and everything. So I mean, it's just compared to if I would have lived in America, I honestly don't know what would have happened. That would have been tough. But I got through that and I got better. And then I was fortunate that I was working at the municipality, and my boss was very nice. He found a work so that I can work as a janitor instead, out in nature. And this, if you've seen my later videos with when I'm out in nature, that's my workplace. I mean, that's amazing. It's incredible. It's a beautiful space, and I love being there. And I also get to work inside. So I have a job that is much calmer than the other one. Even though I miss working with people and helping students, I really felt I cared about the kids. I used to call them my kids, and everyone that I worked with is it's Martin's kids, because no one talked about their students as their kids. But for me, it was my kids. They were my children. Like I felt responsible for them. I cared for them. I wanted them to be well. And now many years later, it's very nice when I meet some of them, and see that they're well again, because they always felt bad. No one stops going to school because they're happy and feel enjoying. Like they stop going to school because they feel like shit and they have some kind of issue. So it went from just crashing down to like finding my way. A big part of it is just getting used to you not being you, to you being someone else, and accepting that it's okay, I can't handle this, and then you need to minimize your world. I know a lot of people go to one of the centers I talk highly of also is Plum Village in France. I saw quite a few people who would go there as lay people and live with the monks and nuns as lay people, meaning not ordaining, but as it's called lay people, like a civilian, a non-monk, a non-monastic. And they would just help out at the center, a very calm environment, and they would go there and they would come and they'd be broken, and then they got the energy and time they needed to heal again. So minimize it, then gradually start adding things until you feel comfortable with what you have, and then finding a lifestyle that works, and finding inside of you when you feel like it's too much. I still feel sometimes that, okay, this is too much. When I'm inside and with my kids, my fiance, I will very clearly say, okay, now it's too much. I can't handle the noises from everywhere. So I either put my earplugs in, tell the kids, okay, you need to be quiet. They listen, amazing. Often they don't. So then I'll ask my fiance, can you take over? Or I put my earplugs in and I'll try to, so, like, really, and not being ashamed of it. That's who I am. Like, I'm very happy. I feel better now than I did before. I feel happier now than I did before. But I needed to go through that, and I'm happy still, though I am broken, and that's okay. And I'm not broken to the degree that I can't function. My system is not the way it was before, and that's okay. So it will get better, and you can heal from it. It's just circumstances take time, and just be patient. Accept that you'll have some time where life won't be the way you expect it to be, and do anything you can to just survive through that. If you have a social network that can help you, that's almost a necessity. Very nice, but you can also do it without. But then just give away the things that don't work. Say up relationships with friends who just take energy. Things that don't work. Don't get too caught up in spirituality. Something that many people do. I mean, if you're into that, if you're here, very likely are. So, like, I recommend you don't get too caught up on it. Still keep your feet planted on the ground, and don't kind of drift off there too much. Yeah, I hope that gives you some kind of perspective for how it worked out for me. And now afterwards I would say that I'm a softer person, I'm a kinder person, I'm a more aware person. I have much more understanding for people who are mentally ill, like I could never have had before. And I feel genuinely happier now than I did before, because that's part of the practice and going through that. All of it goes together, you know. It does. Let's see, I've seen some chat. I hope that answered the question, Nadia. Jack is saying JVB is about the Mahamudra for starters. It's a good book. Then Mind Beyond Death, and then Buddhist teachings of whole existence. Most questions you might have asked. So my answer, nice. Jack Crusher, what was for me? I may have missed something you wrote to me. Just checking. Thank you for acknowledgement. Jack names a book. Yeah, Jack and JVB were having a discussion about books. Nadia saying, I'm glad you're feeling better. Thank you for your answer and help. Absolutely. So it's quite late. Bedtime for me. Thank you, everyone. Again, love these evenings, like the questions, and it's always nice to sit together, and I'll see you again on Monday. Have a great weekend. And like I always say, focus on enjoying, focus on being happy. If you think you need to find the answers to the meaning of life, just put that on pause and try to be happy first, and then look for the answers and see what happens. So try that until we meet again on Monday.